Hi. In this set we have that there are only 3 female students, Amala, Koli and Rini, and only 3 male students, Biman, Mathew and Shyamal in a course. The course has 2 evaluation components, a project and a test. The aggregate score in the course is the weighted average of these 2 components with the weights being positive and adding to 1. So project will have some weight, let's say P, and the test will have some weight, let's say T. So P plus T should be equal to 1. And both P and T are greater than 0. So basically both P and T will be less than 1 but greater than 0. Okay, so there will be some number between 0 and 1. Now the projects are done in the groups of 2 with each group consisting of a female and a male student, and both the group members obtain the same score in the project. So project, there are 6 people total. So project will be done with a male and a female student together doing one single project. So there will be total 3 teams doing a project or doing the project. Each team will have 2 members, a male and a female, right? And whatever the score a particular group gets, both its members will have the same score. So for example, if a team gets a score of 20, that means the male will also get 20 marks, the female will also get 20 marks. Why? Fine. The following additional facts are known about the scores in the project and the test, and these are the additional marks that we have, or additional information that we have, right? So the first is the minimum and the maximum and the average of both project and the test scores are identical, 40, 80 and 60. Okay, so let's write this information here. We have the minimum and the maximum. So let's first talk about project and then we'll talk about the test. For project, the minimum is 40. So there are 2 members who get a score of 40 each. There are 2 members who get a score of 80 each. So this is minimum and this is the maximum, right? And there will be another team of 2 members whose marks is, let's say, X, such that the average marks of the whole group is 60, right? So the average 60 is simply the sum of marks of all the students here divided by total number of students, right? So let's try to calculate the value of X. If you're decent with calculations, you would have figured out that X will be equal to 60 because 40, 80's average is 60 and the groups consist of equal members, but still, let's calculate. So 2 students get 40 marks each minimum and 2 students get 80 marks each maximum, plus 2 students will get X marks each. So the total marks will be 40 into 2 plus X into 2 plus 80 into 2. So these are the total marks of 6 students. So divided by 6 will give us the average marks in project, which is 60, right? 6 into 60 is 360, which is equal to 40 into 2 is 80 plus 2X plus 80 into 2 is 160. 160 plus 80 is 240. 360 minus 240 is 120, which is 2X. Hence X comes out to be 60. That means the marks of the third group would be 60. So in project the marks are 40, 60 and 80. There are 3 teams. So a team will get 40 marks each, a team will get 60 marks each and a team will get 80 marks each. Okay. Now coming to the test. For test also the minimum maximum is 40 and 80 and the average is 60, right? And for test, it is also given that the test scores of students were all multiples of 10. 4 of them were distinct and the remaining 2 were equal to the average test score. Okay, so minimum is 40, maximum is 80. So the scores in test could have been 40 and multiples of 10, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, right? So minimum is 40, maximum is 80. The score of 4 students were distinct. The score of 4 students were distinct and the remaining 2. So there are 4 people and the remaining 2. So total 6 people are there. 4 of them get distinct marks and the remaining 2 get marks equal to the average, which is 60. Right? So 2 people are getting marks equal to average and the remaining 4 get distinct marks. So the remaining 4 numbers are 40, 50, 70, 80. So these 4 students will get distinct marks. So one of them will get 40, one will get 50, one will get 70 and the other will get 80. So 4 get distinct marks and 2 get equal to average. So for project and tests, this is the table that we can have. So there will be 3 teams in project getting 40, 60 and 80 marks, and there will be 6 people getting 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 marks, such that 2 people are going to get 60 marks, right? There will be only 1 person getting 40 marks, this won't be filled. There will be 1 person getting 50 marks, this won't be filled. There will be 1 person getting 70 marks, and there will be 1 person getting 80 marks, and there will be 2 people getting 60 marks in test. Okay, cool. Now let's look at the further information. Amala's score in the project was double that of Koli. So in project, Amala's score was double that of Koli. That means Amala must have obtained 80 marks and Koli must have obtained 40 marks, right? And there are total 3 females that we know, right? Koli, Amala and Rani. The 3 females are Amala, Koli and Rini. Sorry, not Rani, Rini. So the third female definitely will get 60 marks because 3 teams are there. Each team has a male and a female. So Rini will definitely get 60 marks over here. Cool. Next point. Amala had the highest aggregate score. Okay, we'll keep this in mind that Amala's score is highest. Aggregate score is highest. Now Shyamal scored the second highest in the test. Okay, so in test the second highest score is 70. So this must be Shyamal. He scored 2 more than Koli but 2 less than Amala in aggregate. Okay, so Shyamal's score was 2 more than Koli, K plus 2, and this score was 2 less than Amala. So that effectively means that the aggregate score of Amala was 4 more than the aggregate score of Koli. These are all aggregate scores. So aggregate score of Amala is 4 more than aggregate score of Koli. Okay, we'll keep this in mind. Next, Biman scored the second lowest in the test. So in test, second lowest is 50. So Biman scored second lowest and the lowest in the aggregate. Okay, so Amala got the highest aggregate, Biman got the least aggregate. So we'll keep that in mind. Highest aggregate is Amala and lowest aggregate is Biman. And from here we know that Amala's aggregate is 4 more than Koli's aggregate. Okay, cool. And finally the last point that we have is Biman is done. Mathew scored more than Rini in the project. So in the project Mathew scored more than Rini. So if Rini scored 60, Mathew has to score 80. Right? Cool. Now if Mathew scored more than Rini but less than her in the test. So in test Mathew scored less than Rini. So Rini will either come here or here, and accordingly Mathew will also come. And also we were given here that Amala's score in the project was double that of Koli in the same, but Koli scored 20 more than Amala in the test. So in test Koli scored 20 more than Amala. So now there are 2 possibilities for Amala and Koli in test. Koli scores 20 more than Amala. So either you can have Amala scoring 40, so Koli will score 60, or Amala scores 60 in test and Koli will score 80 in the test. These are the 2 possible cases that we have for Amala and Koli based on this third point. Now let's see, let's start from this point here. Amala scores 4 more than Koli overall. ठीक है. So assuming that the weightage of project is P and the weightage of test will be 1 minus P in that case, because we know the sum of the weights for project and test is 1. So if the weightage of project is P percent, as in P in terms of decimal, let's say P, the weightage for test will be 1 minus P. It was given that the total sum of the weight is 1. So if weight for test is project is P, for test will be 1 minus P, and the aggregate score of A is 4 more than aggregate score of K. So what is the aggregate score of Amala? Let's see. For Amala, score in project is 80. So 80 into P. Aggregate for Amala is 80 into P plus whatever Amala's score is, let's say either it is 40 or 60. So let's say Amala's score is X over here. So X into 1 minus P. The weightage of test is 1 minus P. So Amala's score, if it is X, X can be either 40 or 60, X into 1 minus P. So this becomes the aggregate score for Amala. Similarly, aggregate score for Koli will be 40 into P plus whatever is Amala's score in test. Koli scores 20 more. So if it is 40, Koli scores 60. If it is 60, Koli scores 80. So if we take X to be the score of Amala in test, Koli's score will be X plus 20 and this into 1 minus P. Okay, this is the aggregate score of Koli. So now we know aggregate score of Amala 80P plus X into 1 minus P is equal to 4 more. Amala's aggregate is 4 more than Koli. 4 more than Koli's aggregate, which is this 40P plus X plus 20 into 1 minus P, right? So 80P and minus 40P, this becomes 40P. Here we have X into 1 minus P. From here also we will have X into 1 minus P. So both of these will get cancelled out. On the right side we will have 20 into 1 minus P remaining plus 4, right? 20 into 1 becomes 20 plus 4 becomes 24. 20 into minus P is minus 20. Minus 20 goes that side, becomes 60P. Okay. So from here P comes out to be 24 by 60. Goes by 12 2 times, goes by 12 5 times, 2 by 5 is 0.4. So this effectively means that the weightage of project is 0.4, right? So weightage of test will be 1 minus 0.4, that is 0.6. Cool. Now we can calculate the the aggregates of A and K, but still we don't know X, so we'll hold our horses for the time being. Instead of calculating the exact aggregate, which is not possible, we'll have to actually consider two cases for Amala and Koli. So in test either Amala gets 40 marks. So in test either Amala gets 40 marks, or in tests Amala may get 60 marks, right? So if Amala gets 40, Koli will get 60 in test. In test Koli gets 60. Or if Amala gets 60 in test, Koli will get 18 tests, right? Cool. Now let's consider both these cases, and also let's consider the aggregate of Shyamal as well. Let's calculate the possible aggregate of Shyamal in the exam. So you have project whose weightage is 0.4 and test whose weightage is 0.6. So for the aggregate of Shyamal, Shyamal's aggregate will be weightage of project into Shyamal's score in project plus weightage of test into Shyamal's score in test, right? Now from test he will get 0.6 into 70 plus the score from project. From project his minimum score is 40. So let's calculate the minimum possible aggregate of Shyamal. So if minimum possible score is 40 and the weightage is 0.4, so this becomes 0.4 into 40, right? So we have 0.6 into 70 is 42 plus 0.4 into 40 is 16. So 42 plus 16 is 58. So the minimum possible aggregate of Shyamal is, minimum possible aggregate of Shyamal is 58, right? Now compare this with the possible aggregate scores of Amala. Possible aggregate scores of Amala can be two cases, when Amala gets 40 marks in test or Amala gets 60 marks in test. So let's calculate in this first case. What is the possible aggregate? So aggregate for Amala will be possible, for project weightage is 0.4 and Amala's score is 80. So 0.4 into 80. 0.4 into 80 is 32. So you get 32 contribution from project, and from test she gets 40 marks. 40 into 0.4, 40 into 0.4 is 24. We are considering the case when Amala gets 40 here. So this becomes 56. Now in this case, Amala's aggregate is 56, which is less than the least possible aggregate of Shyamal. Is it possible? No. Amala has to have the highest aggregate possible. This means Amala definitely cannot get 40 marks in the test, right? Because if she gets 40 marks in the test, Shyamal's aggregate score will definitely be more than Amala. So this basically tells us that Amala definitely gets 60 marks in the test. So if Amala gets 60 marks in the test, Koli gets 20 more than Amala, so Koli gets 80 marks. And also we are given that Mathew scored more than Rini in the project but less than her in test. So Mathew scores less than Rini in test. Only way that is possible is that Rini gets 60 marks and Mathew gets 40 marks. Okay, so this is the only possible case here, and now we are remaining with Shyamal and Biman to be arranged over here. So let's calculate the aggregate scores of Amala first. So for Amala, the aggregate score is going to be, aggregate score of Amala is 0.4 into 80, which is 32, plus 0.6 into 60, which is 36. So this comes out to be 68. Amala's aggregate score is 68. And we know from here that Shyamal scored second highest in the test, fine. He scored 2 more than Koli but 2 less than Amala. So aggregate of Shyamal is 2 less than Amala. So this is 66. Aggregate is 66, and this 66 will be equal to 0.4 times Shyamal's score in the project. Let's say 0.4 into S plus 0.6 times of Shyamal's score in the, this was project, 0.4 into project's score plus 0.6 into Shyamal's score in test. So 0.6 into 70, which is 42. Okay, 66 minus 42 is 24, which is equal to 0.4 S. So S here comes out to be 240 by 4, which is equal to 60. Hence, Shyamal's score is 60 in project. Hence, Biman would score 40 in project. Okay, and with this we complete the whole table. And this is the table that we have. Koli, Biman is a team in project. Shyamal, Rini is a team in project. Amala, Mathew is a team in project. Mathew scores the least and Koli scores the highest in test, with Amala and Rini both scoring equal to the average marks of 60. 40, 50, 60, 70, 80's average is 60. Okay? Cool. Now let us answer the questions. First question, what was Rini's score in the project? So in project, Rini's score is 60. Next question, what was the weight of the test component? So for test component, the weight was 0.6 and for project it was 0.4, right? This is what we had. So weight of test component is option B, 0.6. Next question, what was the maximum aggregate score obtained by the students? So maximum aggregate was obtained by Amala, right? And for Amala, the maximum aggregate was 68. So this is option D. What was Mathew's score in the test? So in test, Mathew's score is 40. And coming to the last question, which of the following pairs of students were part of the same project team? Amala and Biman. Amala and Biman are not part of the same project team, so this is rejected. Koli and Mathew. Koli and Mathew are also not the part of same team, so this is also rejected. That means option A, neither 1 nor 2. None of them is correct. So that's it for this set. Thank you.